And we are back with Michael J. Muccio, the author of the book America's Battle for Free Enterprise, The Value of Incentive and Competition. And now we're talking about Chapter 5, which is entitled Banker's Gold and Jekyll Island. Okay, in Chapter 5, you wrote about an unnerving editorial that illustrates the point of disregarding the rule of law. It says 2 members in Congress say they don't really need to pass a budget. Yet the fact of law is Congress is required under the Congressional Budget and Impoundment Control Act of 1974 to pass a spending plan and then have it scored by the Congressional Budget Office and signed by the President. That none of this happens suggests a level of disrespect to the law. You know, when I read that, I could hardly believe it. I mean, what can we do?
I know. When you think in terms, I mean, these are politicians that are supposed to be upholding the law, and they're the ones that actually write the laws for our land. And when they don't respect the rule of law, and they don't even have a budget, like the Senate hasn't even allowed a budget to come to the floor. It's been now over 3 years since they've had a budget. And when you've got members of Congress that actually believe they don't need to have a budget, that would be like you and I trying to live our lives without a budget and just spend whatever money that we want to spend without paying attention at all to whether or not we have enough income to be able to endure the spending.
So for those of us who don't know, what do you mean by rule of law exactly? Can you explain it?
Yes. See, in government, a lot of people arrogantly assume that their ideas, their discretionary ideas of how to solve a particular problem should be held up instead of age-old principles and documents like the Constitution. The Constitution is supposed to set up a boundary to keep our nation and our lawmakers within the boundaries of that Constitution. And when we begin to deviate from those documents and we put more focus on discretionary ideas of man, then we get in difficulty.
Okay, so you write about Keynesianism.
Yeah, Keynesianism, right? John Maynard Keynes. He was the person who had the most to say about discretionary ideas. And instead of trusting the free market, which the free market is going to fluctuate, there's going to be ups and downs. And certain politicians get nervous, and even bankers, the Federal Reserve, they get nervous and they think they need to do something. So they jump in there and they're acting like the spouse of an alcoholic, who's being codependent, and they're rescuing and caretaking instead of trusting the free market to do what only the free market can do. And Keynes, John Maynard Keynes, he championed the whole idea of the government jumping in there. And when you have a politician who believes more in that approach and less in trusting the free market, then that's setting the stage for the elitist mentality of a stronger government instead of trusting free enterprise.
You know, it's just surprising to me that politicians and the government officials, don't really understand what has worked, and, can't they look and see what has worked?
You know what? To me, that is obvious too, because it's not just in America. Every country that has applied the principles of free enterprise that's made our nation great has prospered as well. And we don't realize that with free enterprise, it raises the standard of living for everybody. Everybody's impacted in a positive way. Whereas with this elitist thinking and a strong central government, it affects everybody. So the poor are poorer, and the rich are less rich, and much better to trust the free market.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. We'll be back in a moment with more.